Hi, my name is Karen Welton. I'm a birth doula and public speaker, and this is my friend Chrystal Valance.
Hello.
And I will be interviewing her to share her birth story. So, Chrystal, tell me a little bit about your preparation in this pregnancy and what your mindset was coming into it.
So I had twins prior to this, and I had epidural, and I was induced, and I got the epidural, and I took a nap for 5 hours.
5 hours?
Yes.
It's a solid nap. That's like
Right.
not just a nap.
True. I woke up, I pushed, out came the babies. I did tear, but it was a beautiful experience. So
A positive induction experience with twins, and you birthed them vaginally.
yes,
Which is beautiful.
yes. So then
So you're very happy with your
I am actually.
your induction epidural medical birth experience.
And I did actually come into the medical mindset of, with the twins, that if I want a natural birth, but if I don't feel like it's possible, or I feel like it's beyond that, then I will, get an epidural. And I didn't know all the stuff that I know now from Ina May's book, and I didn't know that I actually asked to be induced. So I didn't know that I was setting myself up for basically an epidural, because the Pitocin made my contractions so hard and strong right away. So I wanted an epidural right away. And so it worked out great, but there was things that I just did not know. I was very naive. I basically pushed out 2 babies, and it was beautiful, but I didn't know any of the things now. So if I knew now what I know, I wouldn't have done it that way.
So what did you learn in this one?
That my body is capable of more, that actually getting induced and having the Pitocin will make birthing longer and can set you up to have a C-section. I also learned that I could be empowered, and I actually learned what birthing was, to be quite honest. Obviously I know it comes out of your vagina, but that's about all I knew.
That's about all a lot of women know,
yeah,
right?
that's basically it.
Raise your hand, mamas, is that you? So I gave you these books. We're good friends, but she asked me to be her doula, and it's always an honor for me, because it's a sacred place for women. So I just say, hey, you want to, check out these books, the Ina May's Guide to Childbirth and Supernatural Childbirth, and you read them. Tell me what you thought.
Yeah, I actually read them. I was like, okay, Karen. And even with, I love her, but I was kind of like, she was a doula. So she started asking me little questions, and I was like, I didn't even, being a natural birth was not a priority at all. And then she started just telling me little things, and then she's like, I'm gonna leave these books right here. Do you want to read them? I remember exactly where she put them. And I started reading them, and I was engrossed. I mean,
It's a good book, right?
Yeah, it was like a page turner. I'm reading all the stories, and then I'm learning all the facts, and I was my mind was blown. And then I did the supernatural pregnancy or childbirth afterwards, and my faith and everything it was just a total change, 100%. I didn't realize any of the facts, and
your body, you said you realized in labor what your body actually needed because of reading that book.
Yes. That is the biggest tool. Please read this book if you want, because she would even say things to me, and I would understand what she is trying to accomplish. Because if you go, open, it's like opening sphincters, or, shh, there was all these things that the book kind of explains to you, but if you didn't know, you'd be like, why am I going shh, So.
We'll tell that story later.
Yeah.
So you go 10 days overdue with Brooke, and you're you're very ready to give birth, and you wake up, you have a bloody show, you start having some contractions, you call me at 9-10 a.m. I come over there, and you're teary, you're emotional, you're done being pregnant. Let's say that, right, women?
Yes.
We're done, we're ready to have this baby, but your contractions were irregular, every 20 minutes, every 6 minutes. And so I say, well, let's go for a walk. Let's get walking. It'll help, stimulate contractions in labor. And we just talked as friends. You shared your heart with me. We got back to the house. What were you feeling at this time?
At that point, I think I remember even on the walk, there was a really there was a little bit of a more real contraction, hard, more pressure, that I was like, oh, this is a real contraction. So I was already in the mindset of, woohoo, there's actually something happening here. And so that was kind of my mindset, but then you were like, let's do more things. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I recognize, as a doula, this the irregular contractions and the being overdue was a sign that she could have a baby that was in a non-optimal fetal position, because that baby's head, it's not just enough to be head down, it has to be evenly head down. If it hasn't rotated enough, if it's asynclitic and it's not putting even pressure on the cervix, it can cause this irregular labor pattern. And so we did what's called the sideline release, where you lay on your side and you lift your leg over, but it's a bit more technical than that. But you can learn about that on spinningbabies.com. And it was remarkable how quickly this worked. She went from contracting about every 20 minutes, irregularly, to doing the sideline release for 10 minutes on each side. Then she gets up and she is a solid, like every 6 minutes contraction pattern immediately. And so then we just go into, all right, we're gonna have this baby.
Yeah. And one thing, I actually didn't know that's why you did that. And Brooke actually had torticollis, which means her neck was a little bit kinked.
So she was asynclitic.
So, and the day before, I went to the chiropractor.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that was, so there was something there that needed to be shifted, and thank
Yeah.
God you did that. I'm so glad I didn't have to do a longer birth. Woohoo, go
Yeah,
doula.
right, because it could have been even longer. After we did that sideline release, it happened, and you had her that afternoon.
Wow.
Within 5 hours, I would say.
Wow.
And so use the sideline release, ladies. Study it and learn how to do it before you go into labor.
So there was a point when we were either inside or outside, and I was doing a lot of visualization. There was a point when we were outside and I was doing a lot of I can't even say that word. There was a point when I was doing a lot of visual reflexes in my mind of imagining my vagina opening, like a flower opening because of Ina May's book. And I remember one time I was on the ball and I literally felt like loosened, like after one of the contractions. And it kind of freaked me out, like, holy crap, like my vagina is really opening. I mean, it was like one of those moments, but I had no pain. So there was, at that point, I had
You were
no
having
pain.
these strong contractions and they weren't painful at
No.
all. That's great. So I remember at one point, because we wanted to labor at home as long as possible, and you were moving around, we were staying active, birth ball, we went on the back patio at one point, and in my mind I'm thinking, okay, it's probably getting near that point, we want to think about going to the hospital, and you have a really strong contraction. And her husband and I were both there, I think you were leaning into us, and then you'd lean into me, and we were massaging and supporting you, loving you, and as soon as you have this contraction, her husband, Ben, and I look at each other, and we just kind of nod, like, yep, time to go to the hospital. It's time. You just know, ladies. Everyone asks, how do you know? You just know.
And I knew it too. I was like, yep, let's go.
Get the bag, get in the car. So we went, and that ride to the hospital is never fun. But we get to the waiting room. So you're rush, wait. You get to the hospital, and they had us waiting in triage. In the waiting room. In the waiting room for 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
What was that like for you?
Awful. I mean, so actually, I didn't know it was going to be 45 minutes for one. They were just like, oh, we got to, get a room ready. So I'm with Ben. I'm fully like in my zone. I'm holding on to Ben. I have like a dancing type thing, and I'm going back and forth. And I was going, oh, open, oh, open. And I was just there. I was there. There was no issues. I wasn't really feeling pain. It was just, I'm there. Everything's fine. I'm still kind of thinking about the flower and opening up. And then I realized I was kind of going like, oh, open, like really loud. And then I realized it was louder than I kind of caught myself, like, wow, I'm really loud. And I look around and there's like 25 strangers in the waiting room. And I actually all of a sudden I realized I kind of got embarrassed. Like, these people are watching me in active labor. And I'm like going, oh, open in front of all of them. And I got embarrassed. I mean, Karen and I were talking about it earlier, and I basically got teary-eyed. I got embarrassed, and I was like, oh my gosh, like all these people are seeing me and I look like an idiot. I'm dancing, I'm going open, and I'm like, I was in full active mode. And so Karen like kind of came behind me and she's like, I just shield you, and
Yeah,
people.
so she's feeling exposed, and women need to feel safe in labor and unobserved. And so we, as you've learned, like that's one of the things that we need as women, to feel safe in our labors. And so I could see this was really affecting her emotionally, and so I used my body as her doula to like, I'm gonna be your shield. They can't see you, I'm here.
Yeah, and I think I definitely shed a little bit of tears.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you were still feeling it.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, actually there were only like 2 or 3 people there.
Oh,
definitely not 25. But in your
darn
mind,
hormones.
your hormones like skew reality.
I think someone looked at me, like one person looked at me and I was like, she saw me.
I'm pretty sure there were 2 people. Maybe, yeah, me and this other dude, and your husband. But when you said that, I'm like, no, definitely not 25. It's amazing what the mind can do, right? And so they finally let you in. They bring you into triage, then they give you your...
So she checks me and I was like 6, which is woohoo! I'm like so excited. I'm a 6, I was just really annoyed that I was laying on the bed, to be honest, because I was in a great groove, and I'm like, are you done checking me? And she just looked at me and she's like, you're handling the contractions really well. And I'm like, I could handle them better if I'm not in this bed. That's what I'm thinking. I didn't say it, but that's what I'm thinking. So I was like, woo, 6. But then I was also like, oh my gosh, 6. You want 6, and yet I was like, oh my gosh, 6. So I was thrilled and a little probably anxious at the same time.
Yeah. So we then go in your room, and you get in the tub.
Right.
So tell me about what it was like being in the tub.
So I have a lot of emotions when it comes to the tub. Karen thinks it went great for like 20, 30 minutes, that it really helped me. I kind of feel like the tub did not work for me at all from the beginning. And we were just talking about it, and I think what it is that I had a bunch of people in the room. You get in there, I'm finally in my room, and the first thing we do is I strip down except for my one top, my bathing suit top. And so everything's kind of out there.
You're exposed.
I'm exposed right away. I'm vulnerable. I had not a ton of people, but enough people in the room between the nurse and the midwife and the people with me. And I think I didn't realize until I got back to thinking about it, but I think I couldn't find that hidden. Like I didn't feel hidden anymore. Like I didn't feel like I was in my safe place that I can kind of get there. And so I was kind of saying, oh, open, and I probably was okay for 20 minutes or something like that. And
well, no, now that you say it, I do recognize most of the time in that tub, it got really intense.
Yeah.
And you were fearful. You were struggling with the contractions, and I think you pinpointed it really well. You felt vulnerable and exposed. Mm-hmm. And how did that change how the contractions felt for you?
Well, it's like I couldn't, before I was like, and was in a groove, it was like I could even feel when they would start coming on, and I couldn't even feel when they were coming on anymore. And it could have been like I was already in active labor and transition, but it was like there was this mindset, and I couldn't get back into that mindset of where am I, where is it, it's okay, the baby's gonna come, open up. And the truth is too, near the end, they just kept coming faster and faster. And so now I am in pain. And I was going, shh, shh, and then a couple times it started turning into shit. So there was quite a bit of swearing in the tub.
All inhibition goes out the window in labor.
And I kept being like, okay, I'm good, like, or I'm not good. I was surprised how fast the contractions, and it was basically, now I'm in a lot of pain. And then I told Karen when we had a meeting before, like, months before, what is one of the things you're afraid of? And I said, I'm afraid of the ring of fire. Because when I had my twins, the only pain I really had was that burning when I pushed the babies out. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I think I felt like if I'm overcome by these contractions right now, and I'm feeling pain right now, how much worse will it be without an epidural? So I started saying, we had a code word for epidural, which was pink elephant. So I'm swearing, going, shit. And then I'm like, pink elephant, and nobody in the room knew what pink elephant meant. And my sister-in-law was like, what is happening? She was totally freaked out. She thought it was crazy. But it was already way beyond that point that I could even really get epidural. Yeah. So, you know, me and Karen had a conversation later because she didn't really address it, but I knew in my heart, even after a little bit, like, because I could have just said epidural, but I didn't because I knew it would be set in stone. So I knew it was already past that point. So then once I kind of like, so I'm like overcome at this point. I'm swearing.
Panic mode.
No longer are we in supernatural birth mode.
Yeah, we're out of supernatural
birth mode.
Change directions.
I was good till triage, man. I was good. I was supernatural birth, and then we got into that darn tub.
You gotta listen to your body. The tub for many women is like heaven, but you know,
for me, it did not work.
It didn't work that way.
It didn't work.
And this is, you know, the real honest story, right? And so we're going, we're going, okay, sink into it, and it's and we're crammed in there, and so what happened? You hit your wall in that tub. You hit your wall.
I hit my wall.
What changed?
So I think I realized it's too late, and I realized I was basically afraid of the baby coming out. You know, there's all these emotions and you're trying to figure it out, and all of a sudden it was like, it's almost like the Lord showed me that light, like, you're afraid of the end. And I didn't realize how much I was afraid. I mean, even that dialogue I was saying before, those were feelings, but that was the lie of those feelings, that I couldn't handle the ring of fire, or that I was afraid of the ring of fire, or, you know, I couldn't, you know, all those things. So I realized this isn't working. I'm going to have this baby. I want to have this baby. I'm not going to get an epidural. I want to have this baby. And so then I was like, it was just like clear day. I was like, Brooke, honey, it's okay. Because that's my baby's name is Brooke. I just put my hand on my belly. It's okay. I'm sorry. I was so fearful. You can come out. It's safe, Brooke. Brooke, it's safe. Like, you can come out. Like, and mommy's sorry for making you feel, you know, scared. And so I just started speaking over Brooke, and even my own body. I'm also proclaiming, Chrystal, you can do this. Like you can have the baby. It's okay. It's safe here. And so from that moment on,
so that was a big shift.
That was a huge shift. And the next contraction came, and I just realized, okay, it was just totally different. Okay, now time to get up. So, and I think the reason I didn't want to get out of the tub was I think I wasn't ready to birth the baby. So me getting up out of the tub was like, okay, I'm ready to have this baby now.
Wow. So it was like as soon as you accepted that, you made that resolve, I'm going to have my baby, your natural instincts kicked back in, and you just knew, I have to get up. If I'm going to birth this baby, I have to stand up.
Yeah.
So, and then what happens next?
Then the real fun begins. I think I went to the bathroom. I'm like all good. I mean, there really was like a reset button. And I'm all good. I go to the bathroom. The midwife says, well, we could break her water. And psh, like right then, my water broke. It was mid-sentence. It was like, psh, everyone just laughed. It was perfect. And then I go back to bed, this was basically most of my poses. I was holding on to him, and it was kind of like dancing, and I would sway. I basically started bearing down and didn't even know it. Like, I was putting up a leg, and the contraction was coming. I was just going, oh, man. I think Karen said I definitely swore again.
There were a couple curse words in there.
But they weren't like contractions of pain. I think it was just intensity.
Yeah. So
it wasn't like I'm swearing now because of pain. Now it was just so intense, and that was my release. I swear I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. It happened.
We won't speak of it. Yes, we will. And so, yeah, you're standing up, holding Ben's neck, and your body is involuntarily bearing down. You can't help it.
Right.
And you essentially skipped the whole second stage of pushing. Looking back on it now, I think it was the fetal ejection reflex, where, you know, this can happen sometimes where if there's adrenaline, and I think that in those intense moments in the tub, you know, might have shot some adrenaline in, and that can trigger the body to literally eject the fetus or the baby like a piston. And sure enough, as soon as you stood up, that baby dropped.
Yeah.
So you're hanging on the bed with all your might.
Which I didn't know it dropped, but I mean, my body was like instinct mode.
Let it out.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. Or maybe it was that shift psychologically. As soon as you said, I'm ready to have this baby, your body goes, great, we are too. I don't know. Either way, it worked. So you're standing up, and the nurse says, okay, honey, it's time to get in the bed now.
And I just came from laying down in the tub, and I was like, I am not getting on that bed.
She literally screamed, I am not. And I'm like, she found her voice.
Even though I was swearing for Nick.
I was so proud. I was like, you go, girl.
Because in all the books too, like in Ina May's book, like actually laying down is not the best position. I mean, let's be honest. So I was like, I am not getting on
Nobody's
that
going
bed.
to tell me how to birth my baby but me. And so the nurse looks at the midwife and goes, what's your plan? What are you going to do? And it was like this perfect example of like the difference in our box, like what's in your box, what's in your view of birth, and the difference in perspectives and providers. The nurse is used to the get in the bed, pull up your legs, count to 10. That's like how you give birth. And the midwife has come from like, I think, a history of home birth, was very comfortable with what was happening. And she says, I'm perfectly comfortable with her delivering in this position of standing up, as long as she's supported. And the very next contraction Chrystal has, she literally like...
Both legs went up as Ben's holding on to me. And
you almost fall on the floor.
I basically do almost fall on the, it was not safe.
He literally had to hold you with all his muscles.
Listen, and he, like around, the water broke on the floor. It was not safe. It was not the safest thing. So then the lady is like, if you are like stable, I remember her being like, we got to do that. So then the lady, is that when she threw the pillow?
Yeah, so the nurse is, you can tell, the nurse is so uncomfortable. She's old school. This is not in my box. She's questioning the midwife. What are you going to do next? And the midwife is amazing. She's like, so she brings Chrystal to the bed, and so she has something sturdy to hold on to. She's still standing up, and the midwife gets a light. She gets down on her knees, and she shines the light up so she can see and have access. And Crystal's like, oh! And the nurse is so nervous. She takes a pillow and throws it under Crystal's...
But like angrily.
She was not happy at all. She throws it under Crystal's legs, like as if the midwife is gonna drop the baby as it comes out of her. And I'm like, what is happening?
And then there was a point though that I did start getting the ring of fire. And this was in between where I was actually at the bed holding on to Ben, and it came on. And I was like, so I'm just starting to feel the ring of fire, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it caught me by surprise. It was way more. I think it caught me by surprise too that it was so soon because we just gotten out of the tub. And so the lady was like, I gotta check the baby's pressure. Like she's kind of been in and out, like barely in the room. She kind of avoided us, to be quite honest.
I think she was a little scared.
Yeah, she was a little scared. So she's like, I'm gonna go, check the thing. And her even just put the pressure of right here brought more pain of the ring of fire. And I just I went, wah! I karate chopped her hand away. And the nurse was so upset, and I felt so bad. I literally was like, "Watcha! Don't touch me!" And she was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna write down you refuse treatment. You are responsible for this." And I felt so bad because it was like a hard, full-out ninja. Watcha! Don't touch me! So
women in natural birth should have a disclaimer like, I am not responsible for anything I say or do.
Yeah, so my birth was definitely full of like a lot of fun surprises. So anyways, we get to that point, and I asked her, I said, is it normal for the ring of fire to feel like this or to have the ring of fire? She said, yes, it's normal. And so then I think I just said to myself, okay, this is normal. You don't need to be afraid of it. The baby's gonna come. And then actually the pain just like dulled. So it just literally it was like back to the mind. It wasn't in the forefront. I'm gonna be really honest, ladies. The burning of the fire really isn't that bad. I've even had it sometimes after sex, but I think it's just uncomfortable and it's different, but it really isn't that bad. And I think the fear of the unexpected and then and what it does feel like creates even more pain.
So fear causes pain.
Right.
And when we overcome that fear, tell it to get, the pain goes too.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, it's okay. And I basically was like, all right, I'm going to have the baby with a reunifier. And then it was like, it wasn't even there anymore.
Wow.
So
the baby comes out. I think you pushed her.
So then I moved to the bed. I think I did one push or two or not even. I don't know.
Fast.
But baby's head comes out. I touched the baby's head and I was like, wow, the baby's head's down there. And then I remember like, okay, Chrystal, calm down. Like you just, or even before the head came out, I was just like, because I was imagining from Ina May's stories that this could be a long time. I didn't realize the baby was going to shoot out like literally in a minute. I was thinking you can be here for,
pushing for hours,
an hour or half an hour. I was like, this is just part of the process. Just relax. So I remember I relaxed, and then I think the head came out, and then I was like, okay, calm down, because I didn't want to tear. And that was something, again, that was kind of taught, was that, you push when there's a contraction, not when there's not. So then I relaxed, and then had another contraction, and then I had baby.
And so did you then get in the bed and they handed you the baby?
I think she basically put it up here, and then they literally kind of like, Ben kind of like helped me sit and rotate me. And then I had the baby.
How did that feel?
Oh my goodness. That was awesome.
Not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie. I have to admit, I was so empowered. I really was. Even though we had a little bit of moment where I was like, Karen didn't listen to me. I didn't acknowledge my pink elephant. That I was like, oh my gosh, like what? And it's kind of like this wild adventure, and like it all washed away. But I was totally at peace and super happy.
Yeah, it was one of those hard moments where I'm like, okay, she's saying pink elephant, and I'm telling her husband, that's a code word, and he's like, what? And there's so much screaming, and I'm like, should I leave her and get the nurse? And I can't leave her. She's like, I'm in transition, it's probably too late, but I, we had that conversation where I said, that's your choice. Like, I never want to take that power away from a woman. Like, that is your choice of what you want. But just to see how she overcame that in herself and like found that strength, I think was so beautiful. And to see what happened, and we, it was just a beautiful birth. And so you had your baby.
Oh my goodness.
It was an adventure.
It was such an adventure. And to be quite honest, the tub was basically the only place that really had pain. I mean, I had the reunifier, and then once I just said, oh, it's okay, everything else was perfect. I would actually say it's a supernatural birth. I was in my groove. Everything was fine. It was intense. There was pressure, but everything was good. Yeah. And then when I basically got in that tub, I just...
That insecurity, that vulnerability. That's that mind-body connection that that we need to be so aware of, ladies, is that, recognize when you're experiencing pain, it doesn't mean your body's not working. It means your physiologic process is being disrupted, and something is causing fear, anxiety, that feeling of not feeling safe or protected or exposed as you were, and so pay attention to those things. Pain is a signal that it's telling you we have to shift our physiology. We have to change our thoughts. We have to find that safety, that place where we're safe and comforted and empowered. And so I just love that. I think it's beautiful.
So I would have a natural birth again. But
we joked. She's like, you converted me.
But with the twins, that was my birthing experience as well, and I'm glad I had that. But but I would do things totally different if I know all the things I know now. So
yeah. So how did it make you feel as a woman?
I mean, actually now it made me feel like I could do so much more things that I never thought it was possible. Like if I could get through that, or if I could do that, or if the Lord's with me doing that, then I can do whatever, X, Y, Z. And even I'm trying to get into nursing school, I still don't know all the way, but I actually am not very good with needles. So it actually gave me the strength to say, if I can do a natural birth, like what's that? So actually it's a big shift. It's a huge shift of what it can do for your life.
Thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Love you.